my research engages with a world of cinemas, and by that I don't mean that there is Hollywood and Europe and that's normal cinema, and then there's all the rest of the films from around the world. What I mean is a world of cinemas without a sort of privileged centre. We can say that Hollywood maintains its privileged centre because it has this great grip on global distribution. That's all true, and it's the film industry that's the best at keeping records of its own successes. But nevertheless, if we look at, just as one example, if we look at India, it has a very long history of cinema, a long heritage of filmmaking, produces twice as many films a year as Hollywood, and it has a huge international market, not only in the South Asian subcontinent, but also in its diaspora. So I look at a world of cinemas, and my approach is film philosophical. And for the last several years, I've been working with a French philosopher called Gilles Deleuze, and his work on cinema has perhaps been the most influential of all the philosophers to write on film. And what's slightly different about my work on Deleuze, there's been 20 or 30 books now, what's slightly different about what I do is I've been trying to create a very constructive critique of Deleuze's conclusions. And I've been doing this by engaging his films with a world of cinemas. One of the problems with Deleuze's work, which is fantastic, and looks at how cinema enables us to see how we live in space and in time. But part of the problem with his approach is he was predominantly looking at European and US cinemas, and as a consequence some of his conclusions can be said to be a bit Eurocentric. And if we look at other cinemas, for example India, or cinemas from different parts of Asia, Latin America as well, then what we see is some very different ideas about how we live in space and time. So this is the film philosophical aspect of my work. Just more recently I've been turning to look at Latin American philosophers, Enrique Dussel and Aníbal Quijano in particular, and I think I'm still the only person who's made this shift. And what I find really fascinating, again this comes from my approach to world cinemas, is that these guys see Western philosophy in a very different way, quite a critical way, and they do so because they come from a sort of different worldview. They take a historical perspective from Immanuel Wallerstein and world systems analysis. So what I've been really trying to do recently is put together world systems analysis with world cinemas, and to see how we can understand the world of cinemas with a very different historical depth and a very different philosophical perspective.
And coming to the IAS, what direction and what use do you think you can put this area of research into while here? What are the outcomes that you're looking for?
Oh yeah, this is the great thing about the IAS, and there's two things here which I'm really enthused about. First of all, time to think, and it's great that I'll be thinking about time while I'm having this time to think. In the day-to-day academia, very, very often disrupted by administrative duties, and the great thing about being here is just the 3 months to think and to read. And that's very important because it's very easy, in my view, to carry on with the same methodological approach to cinema or whatever the subject is for years and years and years, but also to feel sometimes as though it needs to be shifted, your angle needs to change, or you need to freshen your thinking. And so time to read is really the vital thing here. But there's something else which is already happening, the encounter with the unexpected. The new ideas that pop up when you speak to people from different disciplines and their take on the things you're talking about, and these kind of productive dialogues, interdisciplinary dialogues, are really proving already to be quite wonderful.